Yo, what's up, everybody? So today we're going to do another book review. Today it's going to be on V for Vendetta. This is a 30th anniversary deluxe edition. I know there's a slipcase edition for it, like an absolute for it. There's also trade paperback for it. I ended up picking it up in, the 30th anniversary, and this is the first time I've read it. I've seen the movie. Wasn't the biggest fan of the movie, but it wasn't until I read this that it really like pulled me in. And I was just I liked the book so much that I'm actually going to get rid of the deluxe edition and probably upgrade to the absolute edition. Now, I know last video we kind of did the actual review of it like this, and I was going through it. This time I think I'm going to set it up a bit differently to see if it works, and if it doesn't, I might have to switch over to this again. So there might be a cutoff in between the videos. So stick with me, please, on it, and we'll see what how it works out. But anyway, yeah. So we're gonna do a book review on V for Vendetta. Very, very great book. I enjoyed it very thoroughly. Going into it, I didn't think I was gonna like it. And before we go any further, this is a spoiler video. So if you guys haven't watched the movie or read this, please stop watching it now, because I am gonna go into a little bit of spoilers in it. So yeah. So the book is written by Alan Moore, and I think pencils are by David Lloyd, with Steve Whitaker and Soboyan Dodds. I'm sorry if I butchered that. It's weird because it usually tells you who the pencils and the author is, things like that. But just know that maybe in the back it says, nope, it sure doesn't. Just know that it's a book by Alan Moore and David Lloyd, with Steve Whitaker and Soboyan Dodds. I'm sorry if I butchered that name. So anyway, let's get started. Let's flip through this together and see what you guys think of it. All right, everybody. So this is the book itself. It comes with the dust jacket. I'm not the biggest fan of the dust jacket because, as you guys can see, it's kind of matte black, but with your fingers, like, it leaves kind of a print on here. You see that? If your fingers are kind of oily or something, it kind of leaves this like little black residue. I'm gonna try to clean that off after I'm done with the video. And then it has like this big old V, emblem that's kind of like in the like metallic, and then you got the his face in the background. And like I said, it is the sleeve of it. The inside sleeve, it says, "There's no flesh or blood within this cloak. To kill, there's only an idea." And then this is the cover of itself right here. And I'm sorry, I just hit the camera, and I knew that was going to happen. I don't have much space here, so forgive me. Let me set this back up a little bit better. There we go. Get it steady. Yeah, but overall, this book was very great. As you guys can see here, it's by Alan Moore, David Lloyd, and Steve Whitaker, and Soboyan Dodds. I'm sorry if I butchered that. And like I said, it's the 30th anniversary deluxe edition. It's been 30 years, but there you go. Oh, here we go. This is where it tells you everything. V for Vendetta, written by Alan Moore, illustrated by David Lloyd, coloring by David Lloyd, Steve Whitaker, and Soboyan Dodds, lettering by Jenny O'Connor, Steve Craddock, Alita, Fell. And yeah, so let's get started with this. There's an introduction for it. I think I want to say there's 10 comics in it, but they break it down into books, like book 1, book 2, the interlude, book 3, Behind the Paint, the Smile, and biography. Excuse me. And let's just flip through it really quickly. I don't want to give too much spoilers away, but this is pretty much what it looks like. They didn't really like upgrade it from when it first came out to now. Like, the original color is still there, and like the paper of it feels kind of old school, with like old comic book style. And as you guys can see here, like, the art is very, very nice. There was some of them that, like, when you looked at the art itself, as you can see here, when you look at the art itself, it's very good, but it was kind of hard to pick up what was going on in some of the panels. And as you guys can see, it's very story-based. There is a lot of talking, a lot of text, a lot of things to read. As when it comes to different comics, there's not so much. And I believe just because it was released back in the 80s, And so the story in itself has to do with, let me break it down like this. In book 1, they kind of introduce V, the main character, right? And they kind of introduce Evie. And that's kind of what book one is about. It's like the first 2 or 3 chapter or comics of it, and kind of like book two. Let me skip all the way up through here. They kind of introduce a whole bunch of other characters and kind of delve deep into them, like the leader, the people that's in charge of the voice, of the fate, and things like that. And this pretty much has to do with, if you guys haven't seen the movie and read the book, like I said, spoilers, but it pretty much has to do with, London, after what would happen if a world went to like nuclear war and London survived. Now, what's weird about it, it isn't 100% sure that there was a nuclear fallout around the world or that something horrific happened. It just, martial law took over, and now the government is pretty much telling the citizens what to do, rationing out food and things like that. And V is kind of upset with this and wants to change that. So he's doing it by himself, and he goes in deep and goes off on a killing spree and tries to change the people's minds. Instead of living in a cage, in a prison of their minds and being told what to do, he wants them to pretty much be free and have self-awareness and do things that they want to do. And at one night, he kind of, like I said, in book one, he rescues Eve, and she kind of becomes, I guess you can say a sidekick to him. Like, he's pretty much teaching her everything. And it's at one point she doesn't agree with what he's doing, and he kicks her out. But when she goes out and she falls in love with this dude right here, he's pretty much also, something happens to him, and she wants to go after revenge. And when V sees this, he kind of kidnaps her again and does a whole bunch of horrific things to her and kind of sets her free from her mind as well. And so, like I said, there's the voice, there's the leader of like this big old group that's enforcing martial law. And towards the end of book three, it's a culmination of every single person that, here's the leader right here. His name is Susan, last name Susan. It's a kind of a culmination of what happens to the leader, what happens to Dominic, what happens to Mr. and Mrs. Allman, what happens to Mr. Finch, what happens to all these characters. And at the end, there's a big, kind of twist on what happens with V and with Evie as well. I don't want to give that spoiler away because that twist is kind of amazing. That's kind of what drew me in even more and what ends up happening at the end. But like I said, book three is kind of a culmination of all of everybody that they talked about, from introducing, Evie Hammond to V, to book two introducing all these other characters like the leader, Mr. and Mrs. Allman, Dominic, what's his name, Mr. Finch, Delilah, the doctor. What happens to all of them? They kind of, in book two, they kind of they introduce them, kind of go deep into their, on who they are a little bit. And in book three, it's kind of a culmination of what happens to them all. And so, yeah, it was I love the illustration of it so much. Just the art is so fabulous to me. And like I said, I know it's very story driven, and it really pulled me in. So I hope you guys give this a read. Like I said, I kind of broke down what the book's about, but not really what happens at the end. I don't want to give too much detail. At the end of the book, there we go. There's there's a behind the painted smile. It's pretty much Alan Moore talking about how they came up with the character of V, and it does kind of dive deep into it a little bit, as you guys can see here. And then after that, there's a little bit of how they got started with drawing them, some of the panels, things like that, the artwork of how they got started, the strips, which is very interesting. So I hope you guys give this a read if you guys are thinking about it. This is one of the original DC trade paperback covers right here. But I hope you guys give this a read. It was very, very, very much a good book. If you guys haven't seen the movie, I suggest you guys don't watch the movie, watch this first and then watch the movie. This is the other side of the dust jacket. Just says ideas are bulletproof. And then, give me a second, let me move this. And then this is the back of it. So, oh, sorry about that. Alright guys, like I said, if you guys haven't read or seen the movie of this book, I suggest you guys read the book first and then watch the movie and see what you guys think, because a lot of things play out differently. I know I was just thinking about this yesterday, how a lot of comic book and book story adaptations, like this one, Watchmen, the actual graphic novels, to books like Twilight, Jack Reacher, when they make them into movies and or show adaptations, they really don't do them justice at all. And now that I've read this book and actually watched the movie, they did not do this comic graphic novel justice at all. Just looking through it, looking at the beautiful art, reading the story behind it, it was so amazing to me. It drew me in so much. Don't get me wrong, it's a little hard to read at times. What I mean by that is you kind of have to be in the mindset of somebody that lives in England and kind of read what they're trying to say, and you're kind of like, wait, what? Because if you're like American, try to read their kind of language, you're like, what is this guy saying, right? So it's a little bit hard to understand that first, but if you put your mindset in trying to be them, it's a little bit easier to read. But it just drew me in so much. It almost felt like at times V was talking to me about being free, setting my mind free, because I do kind of suffer from PTSD, being in the military, and so it kind of helped me, understand things like that. So I really hope you guys decide to read this if you haven't done so already. It's a definitely pick up to have in your collection. So yeah, I hope this kind of helps you decide on whether you want to pick it up or not and read it, and we'll see you on the next one.